This is the first episode of Wellness in the Wild. Wellness in the Wild!
Hi, welcome to Shifting Perspectives, the Baja Beach Wellness Diaries. I'm your host, Wendy. Today we have Angela.
Hello.
And Bridget and Amy. And we're going to talk about what's going on right now. If any of you have seen the Lindsay Clancy trial, what's happening there, and just kind of talk about what's happening with the mental health situation in America. And unfortunately, that's something that she has been dealing with, postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, I guess they're calling it, and just sort of chat about that. We're calling this series Wellness in the Wild. So up we go. Definitely we're laughing, but it is definitely a very serious thing, that she has gone through, and, definitely a big loss, but there's a lot of conspiracy theorists going on. So we're going to get into that too. So subscribe to our channel, click the bell at the top to get notifications when we have new episodes, and we're going to dive into it.
Yes.
No.
You know what? I
think something I can control that's stressing you out. I always want to know about
I
it,
was
right?
thinking, and maybe this is just, I don't know, but I don't know how comfortable you would feel about this, but I'm getting close to wanting to do a podcast, but I don't want it to be man bashing, but I think there needs to be a podcast on how we are expected to talk a certain way, be a certain way, provide for others emotionally and mentally. And yet we don't get the same fucking reciprocation.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it myself. I'll be a one-man fucking podcast. And just
start a TikTok
and
channel.
It lands on us.
Yeah.
It lands on us.
It does. We got a lot of topics brewing because you have everything.
Yeah.
Got a lot of stuff we want to talk about.
We're going to dive in.
Boo Bear, come over here. I'll snuggle with you. I'll keep you warm.
I brought you more food today, by the way, so you better be chewing. Just saying.
I had a piece of your bread last night. That was pretty good. Good. That was pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
Now you have sweet and spicy pickles, dill pickles, and salsa.
All right. Am I gonna cry again like I did
I don't know,
yesterday
are
when
you?
you gave me
I was
zucchini bread?
I was like, it is good. This is the first time somebody cried over
I
it.
started crying like, oh, thank you so much.
I missed that.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's all this self-healing that I'm doing, and allowing my emotions to come as they are and to feel them, embrace them, accept them. And then also decipher, okay, is this an intrusive thought? And if so, what is my body feeling?
Mm-hmm.
What is my mind doing? And then to shift it to an intentional thought. So that is what
That's amazing.
that is what I'm
helpful.
exercising right now.
I really don't understand what any of that means or how to do that. So you're going to have to, maybe you can help me with that.
It was a huge thing, like watching your thoughts and then being like, okay, is this an accurate thought? Is this because of an emotion? Is it, is this really reality? That's when you're healing, when you can decipher pick apart your judgment of your thoughts.
Yeah, and it's hard too. I think because everybody is busy, and I think there's a lot more people out there than not that just suppress. Okay, or they are reactive. And anger is very healthy. I've learned that, being angry in the moment, is actually a way of knowing your limitations and also what your boundaries should be and what you should start implementing, whether it's with yourself or others. But I've always had a hard time of being in the present okay, I'll just deal with it later. I just put it in a box and, okay, fine. But, a lot of my boxes become dusty. So it's been very interesting. But the biggest aha that I've gotten was when I was reading about intrusive versus intentional thoughts. So, yeah.
Well,
Fun times.
Self-aware. That's a good
that segues right into the case, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the Lindsay Clancy case because it actually started with, I was just having a little get together with friends, and my best friend Mal was like, you guys better like read up on this case and be ready to present because I want to talk about this. I was like, this is so much fun. Like, I love that. I don't love what happened at all by any means, but how fun. Like, let's talk about something current. So that's kind of why we're doing these little sections now, Wellness in the Wild, so we can kind of talk about, where's the goat? Camry might have ran away with the goat.
Goat's right there.
Wellness in the Wild. I love it. But to kind of just talk about what's going on, what everybody's talking about online. And so I knew nothing about this like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was like,
I knew about it earlier this week.
I try not to know about things anymore.
Yeah, I don't follow anything.
Well, it's like, it's everywhere now. And I mean, maybe that's just my algorithm changed, but I'm seeing like the trial and now I'm down the rabbit hole, right? Mm-hmm. But I was really struggling because there is so much going on with the trial and like these little details and stuff to know what was actually what happened. Like, I just wanted the initial news story or like what was going on. So for anyone who doesn't know about this, it's really tragic. 3 young children were killed. Okay. The mother of the young children jumped out a window. It appears that she jumped out a window. It appears, we're going to dig into some of this stuff then, but the husband basically came home, found his wife in this state, and then found his children dead in the basement. So she's on trial. She's, her defense attorney is saying that she was, not there competently. Like, she was in a, postpartum psychosis is, I believe, what they're going for. And that she was not in sound mind to understand the repercussions of her actions and what she was doing. So, I know, we're always big talking about mental health, on this podcast. And one of the biggest things that makes this different from any other, because when children are murdered, my God, like there's nothing worse than this. Yeah. But when you hear, number one, all the medications that this woman was on, and number two, how much she reached out for help, that's the first thing I was like, wait a second. Like something doesn't seem right here. Like, she was like screaming for help. The medication list she was on is huge, so extensive. And we're not doctors. I don't know everything about every medication that she was on by any means or anything like that, but it really begs the question in my mind. Number one, did her doctors completely fail her? And like, I don't even know how many exact doctors she has, but I think I've seen like 3 on trial already, a couple different psychiatrists. So again, it's like, are you going to multiple people? Are those multiple people connecting and evaluating together what the best options are, or what they're prescribing versus what this other one's prescribing, and how do those things work together? And it's alarming how, for me, just off the bat, it's alarming how all those prescriptions can be handed out without, someone like, hey, wait a second, this woman, like, literally, she called the suicide hotline multiple times. And, I don't know that, I didn't hear those calls or anything like that, but I don't know what they did for her in those moments. But, she did report that to her doctors, that she was calling and she was trying to get help. So, at what point too, when you're having suicidal thoughts or, any type of thoughts of self-harm, you're on that much medication, why wouldn't we in 2026 have like a way to flag that as far as like, let's get you in a hospital. Like, let's get you treatment evaluate. Like, let's get somebody else. Now, if psychiatrists A and psychiatrist B and all these different people are prescribing this stuff, let's get you in a hospital. Let's see what you're on. Let's go through and get somebody else's like opinion. Now, I know she was in the hospital for a certain amount of time in January before all this had happened. But it's just, it's mind blowing to me how, she was failed in that way. She was screaming for help. She's like, please, someone help me. Some doctor help me. I can't sleep. I'm having intrusive thoughts. Like, I don't want to do this. And, you know, I don't think she did it, but it's, you know, that's a whole other section that we're going to dive into. But
yeah, it is. And I know that, you know, I don't know everything. I haven't watched the trial. I just seen bits and pieces.
Disclaimer: we don't know everything about this.
Obviously, I have not sat down and watched every minute, but I know that, you know, it was said that the one doctor that she reached out to, when she initially reached out, you know, her biggest complaint was that she was not sleeping, and then she put her on a medication that is known side effect that you can't sleep. You know, so first of all, why would you do that? You know, and then she came back and said, okay, this is making things worse. Okay, so you throw something else at her, and just, you know, that seems to be a common thing. Just throw something else, you know.
Here's a Band-Aid. Here's a Band-Aid.
Exactly.
Here's a Band-Aid.
Exactly. You know, and like you said, are these doctors talking to each other? Probably not. Because one doctor or psychiatrist or whatever she was said, you know, they didn't think that she was in danger, that she didn't have a plan to commit suicide, you know, so thought that she was okay. But then the other doctor said, absolutely, you know, thought that she was capable of committing suicide and that she was in danger of doing something. So one didn't think so and the other one did. So they were hearing two different things.
Well, and she was also in the medical field. She was a nurse, right? And apparently from what because I have watched a little bit of the trial, if you have a plan, that's like their flag to they have to intervene, or being like and what's that, like a reported mandator, right?
Yeah,
is
mandated reporter, yeah.
Like they have to report it if they have a plan, but it's like that one tiny little piece that if you don't have a plan, then it's not going to get reported. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because just because that person in a 30-minute or 25-minute telehealth, which is what some of these calls, the length that they were with these psychiatrists and doctors, just because you're not disclosing whatever plan is you might have or not have in your mind, like that, why is that the triggering?
I wouldn't think you'd want a disclosure plan,
right?
It's your plan. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just, you know, I
don't know. I've not been suicidal, so I don't know how that, you know, can't claim I know how that works. And, you know, does somebody have a plan? Does your plan change by the day? You know, do you think about it? I don't know how. I don't know how somebody in that state feels and thinks. And, you know, Amy and I talked a little bit yesterday, you know, do you go into that with honesty? Because, you know, maybe you don't know that you're really there, but, you know, how you have to have the responsibility as the patient to be honest, you know, because you might go in there and say, okay, I am thinking these things, but I don't really want to say it because I don't know what's going to happen to me if I do. Are they going to put me in a hospital? Are they going to take me away? Are they going to throw more medication at me that's going to make me feel worse? And so in that 30 minutes, if you're not honest, you're not going to get the help you need.
Yeah.
So it's got to work on both sides.
Well, and I think one of the positive things out of this horrific situation, and I do appreciate that it is getting highlighted as much as it is on the social media platforms and in the news, is I believe it's going to draw a lot more attention, not just to mental health, but also postpartum depression. And looking back, I know for a fact that I had bouts of it. However, I think in the society that we live in, it's very fast paced. We have those pressures. We don't want to admit it. We don't want to ask for the help. You know, gosh forbid if we do say something, you know, we're thinking, well, how is that going to jeopardize my child?
Yeah.
You know, like people might think I'm crazy and people might, start to intervene and say, well, do you really think you can handle like that's not what you need to hear. You just need, you need somebody to listen to you and not maybe jump on, here's a medication. Because I, as far as I know, I'm not a doctor, but I would think the majority of medications have suicidal thoughts attached to them.
As possible side effects.
Yes. Yeah. And just not to squirrel, but I remember, oh my gosh, back like in the 2007, 2005, Chantix, right? The anti-smoking drug came out. Chantix.
Everybody had crazy dreams and wanted to,
Because of Chantix, I ended up with a Xanax addiction, right? So I went to my doctor. I said, hey, I want to quit smoking. Awesome. Here's Chantix. Here are the side effects. The side effects were increased anxiety, not being able to sleep, and possible suicidal thoughts and or actually doing it. Right. So he's like, if you start to feel your anxiety creep up, just give me a call. We can take care of that. Right. Now, the great thing about Chantix is day 2, you still light up a cigarette, but you're like, nah, I'm good. It immediately does something to your brain, which was scary in itself. Yeah. Right. That quick. But I started to find myself getting more hyper and more jittery. And, I was starting to get bouts of panic attacks, anxiety attacks. So I call my doctor up and I'm like, hey, I quit smoking. That's awesome. Right. And he's like, but I'm like, I'm off the charts. And he's like, okay, well, here, we're going to start you up. I believe it was 0.25 milligrams of Xanax. So I was like, all right. He's like, take it daily. Not if you have an attack, but take it daily with your Chantix. And if you still maybe need to increase your dosage, just give me a call. Right. Oh, and by the way, P.S. don't drink on it. All right. Well, why not? Well, it just enhances the effect of alcohol. So me, I'm young and single and I'm like, hey, I'm saving money at the bar. I just, woohoo. Yeah, it does. It's 1 beer is the equivalent of 3, and so forth. And it started this cycle where I kept calling back for higher dosages. And I think at one time I was up to 2.5 and I was just a zombie and just out of control with my minds and my thoughts. So he gradually took me off the Xanax because Xanax is actually, I believe, one of the most dangerous drugs to withdraw from. So you can't just stop taking it. You have to wean yourself off. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I think I'd rather go back to smoking than continue taking the Chantix. So, it does happen. So yeah, a lot of these prescription medications have suicide or increased mental health challenges attached to them. Hey, it might get worse before it gets better. Or, hey, you know what? If you start to feel worse, we'll try something else. Well, as far as I know, when you're on an antidepressant, it takes time for that to get out of your system. So it's almost like you should really cleanse yourself of that before you start a new one. Well, if we're just passing them out, we're not allowed, it's really causing some chemical fuckery in our minds. So,
well, and with Lindsay Clancy, it was so much in such a short, concentrated period of time. From everything I see, it was September to that January when it happened, 4 or 5 months of all these different medications. There's no time for exactly what you said, anything like that to cleanse. And I wish I understood the brain and medicine more, because why do medicines have those side effects? Again, I don't think any of us in this room have the answer to that question.
I mean, they change the chemistry of your body. So,
and the chemical balance in your brain.
Right.
Well, and the one thing that the one provider who I guess had only been a psychiatrist, this is the Tufts lady I'm referring to. I don't know if anybody saw that part of the trial, but she was only practicing, I guess, for a month before she got Lindsay. And then she was prescribing stuff. And I guess it was Zoloft at first that she had prescribed. And she was like, yeah, this is the most,
well tolerated.
Yeah, well tolerated
prescribed,
and universally
yes.
accepted or whatever. And that I think was what wasn't, that a side effect of that is not being able to sleep.
Right.
And, the defense was like, who's super cool. I really like that guy. He was like, well, why didn't you know that this had, the possibility of suicidal thoughts or ideations? And, she said, well, that's only if you're 24 and under. And he was like, so the fact she was like 27, I don't know exactly how old she was, but she wasn't that far off. He's like, so then there's no possibility once your brain is a little more mature, it just doesn't make sense what the doctors or psychiatrists were thinking when they, and again, I don't know, how do you even get to psychiatrists, like, and not have them communicate? Like, there has to be a better.
Well, I mean, not that I'm saying I think it's easy. However, I feel just from things that I've had to research and then with my daughter's neuropsych eval, they're like we have Tower Health here, right? Big network. They have their own psychiatrists, right? But the challenge is the waiting period. So then you're starting to look at other smaller practices that maybe are associated. So, I think the one doctor even admitted, she's like, yes, we are able to see notes, but I didn't look at them.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you not look at them? But
how is that not required?
Right. But if you go, I feel out of network or not network, but you know what I mean? Out of practice to a different one, the new practice might not get the records, or because you have to release all
shouldn't
that
stuff. Be required? Like shouldn't there be a universal psychiatry database that like,
and maybe there is, we don't know. I don't
there
know.
might be. We don't know. We don't know a lot of these things that we're, talking about, but we're expressing what we think, after hearing all this.
Did you see that one thing though, that same one that you're talking about?
Yeah.
They talked about what was in her notes. And questioned the one thing, she's like, well, yeah, that's what I wrote, but that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
Like, well,
and she seemed like she had like no notes. Honestly, there was another doctor I saw that I don't know if she was for sure a psychiatrist or what she was, but she seemed to have very detailed notes. She's like, I wrote this here, and here. And the other one, it was like a little, blurb here or there. And then she's like, yeah, well, that's not actually what I meant. I know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be accurate because somebody else might read it. They don't know what you meant.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're reading. And
I think it proves, though, in general, that she was seeking so much help, that she never would have wanted to do this if she was in the right state of mind. I know I've sent you guys a couple things because I've seen a bunch of things online about, even actual attorneys that are coming on and saying, well, everybody's speculating this is going to get shifted, like that the defense is going to point to the husband, right? Which we'll get into because there are some weird inconsistencies. But they're saying that this would have all been found in discovery and it would have all been like played that way already. Like people would have known that they were going to accuse him by now, like that the defense would accuse him. But my question is like when she actually admitted guilt, and I think there's more coming out about this now, isn't it true that she was still not really in the proper state of mind when she was admitting guilt? And then from an attorney's perspective, he's like, okay, I can get, do we get her help in a mental institution or does she go to jail? Well, what's the easier defense? I mean, with all the help she sought, I think it's certainly easier to prove that she wasn't in the right state of mind versus did somebody else kill the kids?
Right.
That's what I mean, honestly.
I was just going to go back to like, I just watched this really great woman on, I think it was Instagram, and it kind of made me think of this case where, we have gone from the village to the household. Okay. So back when we were a village, women, and I'm not a mom, but we all know that this is true. When you were the village, if you were pregnant and you were giving birth, you were surrounded by other women in your village that would help you give birth, help you, like, watch the baby while you slept, cook the food, make sure you're healing properly. It was like a whole, we took care of all that situation because, like, we love you men, but you're not, like, women know what women go through, you know what I mean? And now we've moved to the household where it's the woman, the husband, you might get, like, your mother-in-law coming over, your mother coming over to help, but it's not anything like it was when women had a whole network of support. And that's a shame because, if you can't, if I don't sleep, I really am like, a monster. Can you imagine, like, having the responsibility of these kids not sleeping? Like, of course you're going to go insane. You know what I mean? So it's like, you need to get back to the village.
Going back to the postpartum depression thing too, as a woman admitting that, and because maybe when it's your first baby, that's new. Everything's new. But this was her third child. She had two others. How do you, as a woman and as a mom, say, look, I'm suffering? Because people are probably going to say, we had two others. Like, you were fine before. How do you say, like, you're going to be looked at like, we just can't handle this.
And that's
people
terrible.
just don't get it, that it's something that is just not right.
But she still tried. She still tried to get help.
She recognized it. She knew, because she knew, I'm assuming, that she didn't feel that way with the other two. Maybe she did, but maybe to not that extent.
Yeah.
So she knew, this isn't me. This isn't me as a mother. This isn't right. So she was trying, and they just kept throwing things at her that made it worse, obviously.
Well, when you said the village, like, I saw something interesting, and it's true. Like, think about Kate. Does everybody know Casey Anthony? You remember that thing? Like, we weren't rallying around Casey Anthony. Like, this is different. Like, this is just different because she was seeking help for mental health. It does not appear like she was just trying to get on medications to escape reality or anything. She was pleading for help. Like, please help me. I don't want to have these thoughts, trying everything that she could. So I think that makes it completely different, in my opinion.
Well, I think the mental health industry, or whatever you want to say, is a big thing right now to begin with. So this is coming at a time when mental health is getting a lot of attention, and if it's being handled properly, and there's a lot of people that are just admitting mental health problems. So, this is at a time when that is really up here. There's just so much attention to it, and then what's happening in mental health in our healthcare industry.
And it's so sad that you can be admitting mental health problems, seeking the help that you want, and still be so failed. But the husband was a big part of even, like, participating in doctor's appointments, like, which is also kind of strange. I don't know. This is, again, just me speculation, but it just doesn't, there's so many things that just don't really add up in the case.
Well, it doesn't also look really good that, you moved in with some chick 4 months after this happened. Now you have a baby with her and you got married, and she looks like the wife.
They look like twins. He had a $1.7 million GoFundMe. He got $1.7 million from GoFundMe, and then he sold their $700,000 house.
It reminds you of, who was the guy that put the kids in the oil tanks?
Oh my God. Chris Watts.
Chris Watts. It reminds you of Chris Watts. He had a whole other life waiting for him. I got to get rid of my old one.
Well, and speaking of that, so they live in New York now. The new wife is from New York, right? So I saw a little bit of his trial. He would leave Lindsay to go for 2 nights to stay in New York. Like, so who was in New York? Who were you going to see? This was before everything happened, right? And again, like, if Lindsay was if she had a plan that she just wasn't sharing with everybody, I don't think the timeline of how the actual event happened makes any sense. Like, forensically, I don't think it makes any sense. But why wouldn't she do it when he was away for like 2 days or something?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When you would have more
And
time.
if you know that your wife is suffering that badly, he had to have known. I wouldn't leave her at
No.
all.
What are you doing in New York too?
Because didn't they say his job, like he doesn't travel for work, right?
I thought he
Didn't
worked
they
from
say he
home.
worked from home?
Yeah.
So where was he?
Where was he going?
Yeah. Unless, some work from home jobs do require you to travel from time to time. They do.
There's so many people arguing like, well, this would have been brought by the defense, or maybe it will be brought by the defense. And then there's actual lawyers or self-claimed lawyers, or I don't know, people on social media saying their attorneys saying, well, why, this is never going to happen. They're never going to flip it. Reddington's not going to flip it on Patrick. Well, I think as a lawyer, you have to look at what is the path of least resistance for your client, and from my understanding, it goes either she's going to jail or she's going to a mental institution. So what's easier to prove, that he did it, or, especially because she already admitted she was guilty, but what mind state was she in when she admitted that she was guilty?
When she said she kept hearing voices, it was probably like, are you so drugged up that you're hearing your husband's voice?
They said that there was a man's voice, but then there was something that said that she felt like she was out of her body watching it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then the conspiracy theorist was, did his new wife
do it? I saw that too. Yeah.
Because she looks so much like her.
Yeah.
Was she actually watching it happen? But it was the new wife.
But then, like I was telling you today, apparently his DNA was on the murder weapons, but not hers.
How does that make any sense? She had no time. Like, the one thing you sent with the timeline is like bananas. Like, he supposedly sent a email from his laptop.
But maybe it was his phone.
Yeah. At 5:24, but got to CVS at like 5:30. I'm probably gonna mess this up, but 5:33 or something. It's like, that was a 3-minute drive. So even if he sent it from home, like, it doesn't make sense. And why don't we have the outside surveillance from CVS? And did anybody see
he changed his shoes or something?
He changed his
shoes.
It looks like his best friend. Did anybody see that? That, like,
no.
The CVS footage, it almost doesn't even look like him. It looks like it could be his best friend.
Huh.
And supposedly he called Lindsay to make sure that the generic Pedialax or whatever it was okay or acceptable.
But then
then he had the real thing.
The real one.
So what would that phone call even have been for? And was somebody else still at the house calling, because there was an incoming call from Lindsay to him, who actually made that call, like, who else was in on this?
And somebody said that, like, some of her pills that she wasn't taking, that she wasn't on anymore, were like crushed up in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Crushing up pills, putting them in her food. Like,
when it was in a cup. It was that she was like, okay, she was going to drink this and then do whatever else she did, but it just doesn't, how is there enough time? Like, literally, the kids, everybody was in the hospital, I'm pretty sure, by like 6:30. And the one child, the baby was revived at the hospital. And apparently would have had to be, like, it would be a miracle if that baby would have been strangled at 45 minutes before they were revived. So the timeline doesn't make any sense.
And not to mention the whole core body temperature. She was like, basically like dead, but I read something where she would have had to been out in like the tundra for like 5 hours to get to that core body. It like nothing. It's just, there's so many holes that you're like, what is going on here? This is like.
And how did she talk? And okay, so how did she talk?
They said she couldn't talk. I guess the first responder said that she was like trying to, but she couldn't.
Yeah.
Did she have a crushed thyroid?
I did hear that.
I don't know. Someone that I was watching on YouTube yesterday said that she's cut her wrists and her throat. But I don't know.
They
were
to
be careful
Yeah.
of what you watch on the internet, you know.
She did. That's true. I saw the person who worked on her at the hospital when she got there. He talked about how he did stitch up, but they were superficial. They weren't bleeding. It wasn't like she slit her wrist to bleed out or, slit her neck to bleed out or anything like that. They were like, they called them superficial. So I assume it wasn't that deep.
Were they just maybe made to look good?
I don't know. The Apple Watch.
It's
right?
always the husband. It's always the husband. I mean, come on. It's always the husband.
It just does not.
You know, Susan Smith, no. But
Well, and I can, when Bridget was saying, oh, well, he was going to her appointments with her. And, listen, relationships, whether you're married, whether you're in whatever, somebody can play the role.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Somebody can play the role. But are they invested?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think that especially that type of situation, right? And who knows what their marriage was like, but I think even in relationships too, if somebody is mentally struggling, maybe it's a situation that they're going through temporarily, right? And, and I'm speaking, I guess, more so with women, but it can absolutely be with men. But, as women, we're taking on the weight of the world. We're fighting some uncontrollable evil things that are affecting and controlling our family. And we're fighting that. Plus we work. Plus we carry the emotional burden of everybody in our household. We're running here, running there. We're the nucleus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's like, when that person is struggling, and then you have that counterpart that might be showing up for the doctor's appointments, might be, supporting you physically, and maybe through some conversation and cheering you on. But it's like, are they really invested? Or are they like, no.
Like mentally checked out.
And rather than, connect with that person, communicate with that person and, try to support them, right? They just continue to shove their head underwater.
Mm-hmm. And so, well, I came to your appointments.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I hung in there.
I asked you if you were okay.
I stayed till the end.
And why wasn't he like, maybe like all these drugs at one time is not a good idea? Like,
exactly.
To me, it's almost like, was he trying to get her so drugged up that this was the perfect alibi?
Well, could have fed her a bunch of stuff and then talked in her ear and made her, you know what I mean?
The other thing I saw was the pills were crushed up in lemonade, and someone was like, anybody in the medical field, and I don't know if this is true, I'm not in the medical field, anybody would know you wouldn't crush up those pills because they're going to be less effective in lemonade, an acidic drink. It's going to counteract. So again, like, she would know that. She is a nurse. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The core body temp, I saw somebody else who said that they were a trauma nurse in Colorado, that it was a really interesting video. Trauma nurse in Colorado, and the patients that were brought to her were two gentlemen who were in a plane crash that landed in water, okay, in the Colorado mountains. Brought them out of the water. They treat every patient that comes through. They try to revive everybody, even if they think they're dead, right? Their core body temp was like 87 degrees or something, and they had been dead for so long. They were in that water, 32-degree water for like over an hour. So it's like, how would Lindsay Clancy's body be at the core body temp they were? And the 911 call, okay? Glad we didn't all get to hear it because it's probably traumatizing, okay? But Patrick says that Lindsay told him that the kids are in the basement. So with the core body temp the way that it was, how could she speak? The crushed thyroid, the first responder says she couldn't speak. How did she speak to him? And why don't we have that on the 911 call?
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't we have that on the 911 call? Because that was the first part of the 911 call. It was, from what I understand, he went over to her. Yeah. Oh my God, my wife fell. She tried to commit suicide. She jumped out the window. Lindsay, where are the kids? And he said she was responding at that point. But like, how do you go from responding to then the first responders get there? How quickly she's not responding, and that's her body temperature? But she told you the kids are in the basement?
Yeah. Again. It's always the husband.
I think so. I just hope that, you just hope that the right person sees, justice for the children. And especially, you got away with a $1.7 million GoFundMe, sold the house, started your life all anew.
Well, started it anew before the first one ended, basically.
What was he doing in New York?
I don't know.
Unanswered questions.
You know, I heard somebody say you never really know who you're married to or who you're in a relationship with.
That's
So, hey,
terrifying.
yeah, you never really know.
Wellness in
Scary.
the wild.
Yeah. Yep. You never know.
It's just such a shame.
It is.
It is.
Because, like,
It's
she's just,
devastating.
you know, like all these lawyers are saying, they're not doing the guilt or innocent, it's the insanity or, you know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
right.
so she's screwed either way.
Well, and she's paralyzed.
You know.
And the Apple Watch. Why did she take off her Apple Watch? Because your Apple Watch would know you fell, right? That's why. That's why it was removed. Like, yeah, I'm not in my right mind at all, but I'm gonna remove my Apple Watch before I
Apple
jump.
Watches can do that?
Yeah.
They know, like,
Oh, they have a fall detection?
I think they know if you
Oh,
get
they
in
do.
like a car
Yeah.
accident.
I don't think I have.
Sometimes-
I don't think I have mine
Sometimes
turned
I'll
on,
do
but-
something and it'll say, we've detected a call. Should we call 911? I'm like, what? I'm just...
Yeah,
no.
but Apple Watches, though, they track your heart rate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Heaven forbid we would do any of that stuff if
And
we
your
were
activity.
trying to off somebody.
Your activity.
Activity.
Yep. Location.
Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Now I'm going to go down the rabbit hole.
Now you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we may need to follow. I mean, this is going to be a
Yeah.
long trial, so we
Yeah.
might have another
It'll be
part
interesting to see the
2
whole outcome of it.
episode, but I feel like everybody should comment. Let us know. Let us know where you stand on the Lindsay Clancy case.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a tragedy. We're not doctors. Disclaimer, you know.
There's
all
lots
that
of
stuff.
body
We're not
language.
lawyers. We're
Yeah.
not.
But there's lots of body language experts that have weighed in on his testimony too. And just the fact he's like, it's just no bueno.
As much as the way he's looking, because apparently, like, if you're...
Left, you look
Yes, if you look
lying
left...
is left.
Mhm.
Lying is left.
Oh, I forget which. Maybe I heard the
I'm pretty
reverse.
sure it's left.
I don't know, but like one way is you're just literally trying to recall information, and then the other way is you're creating a story.
Oh, really?
I'm telling you, I love those videos by ex-CIA
Yeah.
or, interrogation specialists,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's fascinating to hear how they can pinpoint somebody down. Yeah.
100%.
How
to
they
look that
sit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mirroring and their eye movement, how often they flutter their eyes, the creases in their, the way they smile or talk.
Oh,
It's
I
so
feel like the
cool.
older you get, the better you are at that too.
Picking up on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I saw
It's just
something
like-
about the way he was like breathing, and
Mhm.
the way he was like the
The sigh.
the emotion, and
Yeah.
that was something too.
And the one part of his
Overdone.
testimony when he was actually talking about that day, he was like scratching him. He was just all over the place, and it was just different patterns than he had in every other part of the testimony. So it'll be interesting, but I mean, you never know. She couldn't theoretically she get the insanity. I don't want to say deal, but that's what the judge rules. It was insanity, but then couldn't they come back?
They have a jury, right? It's a jury
It's a
trial.
jury.
Yeah.
Couldn't they come back then? And no, I guess once a case is closed, it's like, that's what it's deemed.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Lawyers,
I don't-
comment in the comments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
where are
Like,
lawyers at?
could somebody reopen the case and
Yeah.
investigate him?
Probably not though, because she signed the confession. But can we go back and be like, hey, I was like under the influence of something,
Right?
It's very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, and sad. It's just
it's
sad
the whole.
sad.
because
It's just sad.
she's been failed no matter what happened.
Yeah.
She's
Right.
been failed.
Yeah.
And now her life is ruined. Yeah. It's just crappy.
Mm-mm.
It is. Absolutely.
But yeah, just hopefully it brings a lot more attention to
Yes.
postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helping
and
mental health.
and, supporting one another and being there. And if something, doesn't feel right with somebody, don't ignore it and run away. Have a conversation and
Mhm.
check in on that person.
Check
And if-
on your friends. Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
know that you're not thinking the way you would normally think, you have to can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't stop with one doctor or one medication, and you just have to and talk to the people that love you and you know, say this isn't right, and they're just throwing more at me and it's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, can you help me?
Seeing this behavior from you, and it's not yourself. Like, let's sit down and have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
That's the good thing to do. The right thing to do. Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody comments on
Yeah,
their,
right.
their opinions on what, you know.
Maybe we'll have to have a follow up.
Yeah.
We totally
After
will.
this is
I can't
over,
wait to read it. Like I want people to comment and let us know what they think. Cause I know I see it all over even my friends on social media are like, are you guys down this rabbit hole? It's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
On next time.
Next time, we'll wrap it up. So make sure that you're subscribing to our channel and you're clicking the bell at the top to get notification when we have a new episode. And this might be a part 2. And make sure you're commenting. Let us know what you think actually happened and anything else you want to weigh in on mental health and all of that. So till next time. Bye.